Thank you for tuning in to the Watchtower Deprogrammer. My name is George Doggett. Video 1, I address my experience in the Watchtower for 25 years, and in video 2, I explained how my work in the Watchtower was that of real estate salesman for the society. My job was to sell real estate in a paradise earth where a person might pet a panda or frolic with a lion. My job was to snare the people in with a promise, with a hope. There's something that was different from anything that they had been taught in churches. Now, it was very important that I set the stage properly to get literature in their hands. Why? Why is literature so important? Because that's when the cult programming begins. It can't start until the person has a piece of literature in their hand. You see, a truism of cults is that if you can control what a person reads, then you can also control what a person believes. And if you can control what a person believes, then you can also control what or how a person behaves. And once a person is indoctrinated by the constant repetition that the governing body speaks with the voice and the authority of God, there is absolutely nothing the devotee of any cult, including the Jehovah's Witness cult, will not believe. There is nothing they will not do, because the cult speaks with the voice and authority of God Almighty. Now, let me tell you about something. I was circuit overseer. C.O. Moffat was in my congregation, and he got up one Saturday night and he wanted to make a point. He said to us at Brook Road congregation, if Jehovah's organization told you to go and jump off the James River Bridge, do you have enough faith in Jehovah's organization to do so? Now, C.O. Moffat professed to be of the heavenly class. And his response to his question was, yes, as loyal followers of Jehovah, if we were asked to jump off of a bridge, then we would simply laugh and say, well, I guess Jehovah knows best. I must say, I was personally alarmed, and I looked around at the Kingdom Hall to see if there was anybody else that was showing any concern. But no one did. I mean, after all, he was of the anointed. And number two, he had been appointed by the governing body. Now, the Watchtower has really never retracted any sort of statement or denied that they want a person to disobey them under any circumstances. Under any circumstances. Now, it's possible that the Jehovah's Witnesses would never ask somebody to do something like that, but you can't tell, because the Jehovah's Witness never knows what he's going to believe. You see, all of his beliefs are based on something very capricious and very political. It's called New Light. So therefore, the Jehovah's Witness does not know what he's going to believe 5 years from now. He doesn't know what he's going to believe 10 years from now, just like his beliefs today aren't what they were 20 years ago. And that's kind of a concerning thing, that because it identifies a group as a cult, and blind obedience is a sign of a cult. Now, the cult indoctrination begins at the door, it continues in the home, and it finishes up in the Kingdom Hall. For all intents and purposes, Jehovah's Witnesses must hang up their brains at the Kingdom Hall door. After all, nobody wants to hear their human teaching, their human thinking, not when you have the all-knowing spiritual governing body ready to spoon feed you with a Watchtower. Empty your brains and be ready to be spoon-fed. It is estimated, by the way, that Jehovah's Witnesses only appeal to about 7.5% of all the scriptures in the Greek or New Testament, Greek scriptures or New Testament. Somebody, I read this not too long ago. They went through and they took the Watchtower software, and they got a list of the publications, and they went back and counted or had the software count up the number of times New Testament or Greek scriptures were used. And amazingly, guess what? Matthew 24:14, Matthew 6:33, 1 Corinthians 15:33, Revelation 21:3 and 4 were repetitively used hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. The rest of the Greek scriptures, not so much. And I think that can be pretty much well borne out by anybody that just went to Watchtower Publications and started having the software check some stuff for them. Now, I'd like to make another point today. The reverence for the Watchtower leadership, the reverence for the Watchtower magazine, absolutely borders on idolatry. Now, I appeared as an expert witness in a child custody case in Tennessee. There was a Jehovah's Witness mother, there was a non-Jehovah's Witness father, and I was used as an expert witness. So I was before pretty much a good congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. And I told the judge that the Watchtower regards their journal as on a par with the Bible, as comparable to the Bible, and that this teaching has never been retracted. And the arrogant, well, he was a non-Jehovah's Witness, but the arrogant lawyer for the Watchtower said, "Now where has the Watchtower ever said that?" So I picked this up, and here's what I read. This was under the subtitle Appreciation for the Truth, and it was designed to teach people to appreciate the Watchtower magazine. Quote, "The brother went down to get the mail before breakfast, and when he had breakfast, he said, 'Brother Reamer,'" who was one of the Watchtower's anointed remnant, "Brother Reamer, I got a new Watchtower this morning. And do you know the first thing that Ma and I do when we get that tower? We kneel down before we take the wrapper off and ask Jehovah to make us worthy of what the message is that Jehovah has for us. Now, before we take the wrapper off, will you kneel down and pray with us?" Does this disturb you? Isn't it disturbing that someone would treat a man-made publication with false teachings as being so holy that you would want to pray before you even touch the wrapper and unwrap it? I'm telling you, there were a lot of embarrassed Jehovah's Witnesses, because when the judge heard that, he really perked up. By the way, that's in the Watchtower, September 15th, 1964, page 574. Read it yourself, and you tell me that Jehovah's Witnesses have ever retracted that statement from the Watchtower. It's still in publication. If you've got the 1964 Watchtower, you can go to Watchtower Publications online. You can go to jw.org. There are all kinds of places you can look at it. And it's there today as it was in 1964. Let me go back to it for just a moment. "We kneel down before we take the wrapper off and ask Jehovah to make us worthy to see what the message is that Jehovah has for us." Jehovah's Witnesses will open up the Bible and don't necessarily have to have a prayer, but Watchtower, that was listed as a good example, by the way. I mean, this was published by the governing body as a good example of faithfulness under the subheading Appreciation for Truth. So, I'd like to conclude by saying, when a group tells you to jump off a bridge and that you should do it to prove your faith to Jehovah's organization when a group says that its literature is comparable to or more holy than the Bible, and that it is a good thing to pray before you even unwrap that sacred magazine, then folks, you're in a cult. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you'll come back in a few days when I'll have another video uploaded. Meanwhile, I'm going to leave you with a thought today. If you check your brains at the door, who's doing your thinking for you? If you're a Jehovah's Witness, who does your thinking for you? Do you trust the Watchtower enough to jump off a bridge? If you are a faithful Jehovah's Witness, you will. I'm George Doggett, Watchtower deprogrammer. I've been deprogramming Jehovah's Witnesses since September 1990.